Good evening and welcome to another episode of Unstoppable Overcomers. I'm your host, Dorothy Odell, for this evening. Just would love to start today's podcast out first by saying thank you to our sponsor, the Left Foot Coach, an innovative entrepreneurial venture partner that will take your income and self-expression to the next level. With its established 5-pillar methodology, the Left Foot Coach can help you build a solid foundation for success and expand your full potential. As a venture growth coach, the Left Foot Coach is dedicated to partner with you in your established business to help you grow your income and achieve your goals. Whether you're an entrepreneur or a professional looking to take your career to the next level, the Left Foot Coach can provide you with guidance, support, and resources you need to succeed. If you're ready to unlock your full potential and achieve your dreams, then schedule a free 30-minute consultation today. Definitely just go to this link here on it's up here, calendly.com/xin left /30-minute month equals 2023-05. With that, I am super excited to bring another veteran to the show. Mike Manazir, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks, Dorothy. It's great to be here.
Great to have you. I am super stoked. This is the second time we've had a Top Gun fighter pilot on the show, so we were talking about that in the back, making puns and jokes and everything. So we started. Yes, I love that. I'll have to remember that. So tell our audience who you are and what you do now.
I'm Mike Manazir. I work for a Fortune 50 aerospace and defense company now, and I joined them about 6 years ago, where I transitioned from the U.S. Navy. 36 years in the Navy. Grew up as an aviator, flying Tomcats and F-18s. Got an opportunity to learn how to boil water a different way with nuclear power. Drove a couple of ships, commanded Nimitz. Had 5 tours in the Pentagon, and I transitioned in July of 17 and started working at my current company in September of 2017.
And what did you like best about your military experience?
Oh my gosh. Well, getting to fly Tomcats, first of all, was totally fun. That's all I wanted to do. Was ever since I started thinking about going into the Navy, I wanted to fly fighters off of carriers, and I got to do that, and I just enjoyed it so much. And the Navy kept giving me great opportunities to do, great things flying. I was a landing signal officer. I learned how to do that, so I taught young Tomcat aviators how to land aboard the ship and ship operations. And I had wonderful tours kind of back and forth between being at sea, going to the Pentagon, for instance, kind of learning about that bureaucracy, and then going back to sea. Got to command a fighter squadron, and then commanded above that. The culmination being the commanding officer of the USS Nimitz, which was just the best job in the galaxy, and just a great time. So learn how to fly, learn how to drive ships, and putting both of those combinations to work as part of a career. I just had a great time.
That's awesome. So what would you say is your overcoming story then?
Well, so actually, Dorothy, I think the reason I wrote the book, Learn How to Lead to Win, is because from the beginning, to get to where I wanted to go, I had to overcome some kind of challenge. And so in the 8th grade, my dad, who was a United States Marine, took us, the family, to a Georgia Tech Navy football game, and I watched the midshipmen march on. And he was an academy grad, and I've been hearing about the academy for years up until that time. Of course, I'm a relatively young boy, but I didn't give a thought about where I was going to go or what I was going to do. And the mids marched on to the stadium like they do at Army Navy. And I went, that's what I want to do. That right there. I mean, it's a brilliant flash of, I'm going to do that. And so I went to the school guidance counselor at my junior high I was going to. I said, I'm going to the Naval Academy. What do I have to do? And so she took out an 8.5 by 11 line sheet of paper, drew 4 columns, and then wrote 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grades and every course I had to take in all 4 years. And because my dad was a Marine and we moved around a lot, I went to 4 different high schools, and every high school I said, I'm going to the Naval Academy. I need to take these courses. What can you do for me, kind of thing. So I got into the Naval Academy, and I only wanted to fly. So I had to get through the Naval Academy, get a degree, graduate a commission in the Navy, get a flight school slot, and then go down and fly. And then I had to overcome, because I really wanted to fly Tomcats, I had to overcome the training in flight school to do better than anybody else, so I could have my choice, so I could get jet grades and then get a Tomcat slot at the end of that. I did that, and then I wanted to be a commanding officer of a fighter squadron, so you have to compete with the other officers that your peers are, and so I had to overcompete to do that. Against my own better judgment, my own worst judgment, actually got kicked through the door to go to Navy nuclear power. I did not want to go to nuclear power school, but the Navy felt differently than I did, and so I talk about different kinds of mentors. We get into this later. You know, there's the mentor that puts their arms around you and says, you're going to be great. Here you go. And then there's the mentor that kicks you in the butt through the door and says, you can go do this, you know, get over yourself kind of thing. So I got through Navy nuclear power school, which is really hard. 42 years old. I'm studying like I was an undergraduate in college. And then managed to get through the selection process again to be the commanding officer of the Nimitz, and then to get through that. And so my entire Navy career for 36 years was getting past whatever the challenge was to get to that next level, to get through the academy, to get through Navy flight training, to get through Navy nuclear power school, to, you know, to learn that, to be good enough to compete, to then be handed the, you know, the opportunity to do those things. So I think that's really what I would say is that challenge of growing up in the Navy is what's gave me that experience.
Wow. That is commendable, especially going back to school at 42. Like, good for you.
Yeah.
I'll be 47 next week, and I'm like, there is no way.
Right. Exactly.
If you're tuning in just now, just let us know where you're listening in from in the comments. That would be awesome. And Mike, your story is one of definitely encouragement, you know, just keeping on the right track. And when you said that you knew exactly what you wanted to do and be right away, like, I don't know of anybody that I've ever talked to that has had that in them, that they knew exactly what they wanted to do. I know I didn't. My dad says you should be a bookkeeper. You know, everybody's going to need everybody in the world's going to need one. So just sign up for that. Right. Because if you're not doing books, then you're doing taxes. And I'm like, okay, then now I'm into media. So here we go.
Yeah. My kids were the same. So I have a 39-year-old daughter, a 35-year-old son. And of course I'm pushing them to go figure out what they want to do. They go, Dad, you knew what you want to do in 8th grade. And so they didn't either, you know, and are out doing their own things. And I think that's true for most people, is but there's some time for any successful person. There's some time in which they see something. There's something happens to them. There's an event. I think even more commonly, and I talk about this in the book too. You're headed down one path, and bang, and you get stopped, right? And you go, well, gosh, you know, what am I going to do now? And then some opportunity opens up, and then life opens up, and that's, you know, and they can talk about that inflection point. I think it's just, life is kind of like that, I think.
Right. Absolutely. You know, and I think that's what it is. I think that's what the opportunity for me switching to this was. I saw it and I'm like, wow, never thought of that. And then gone with that. So it's encouraging to hear, though, that your children didn't know. So that's, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. Sit on mom and dad's couch and watch TV and eat Cheetos. Yeah,
not gonna happen.
I was gonna say not ever. That would have never happened in our house either, because it was either, if you weren't in school, you got a job. So either you were learning or getting an education, or you were learning on the job, one or the other. So
you know, Dorothy, you know, that comes up all the time, and as your listeners, you know, well, how do I guide my child or the person I'm mentoring? You know, in the introduction to the book, we talk about, you know, who is a leader. And if a grandparent is mentoring their grandchild, you know, you're a leader. If, you know, any kind of influencing is that, you know, being a leader. And I think if you just provide an example and you model the kind of behavior that, you know, the kind of person that you would like the person you're influencing, whether it's a child or a mentee or a grandchild, to be, I think that's very powerful. And the skills that are gained by a child who has an example of you know, a strong person or a strong human being or a kind human being, or, somebody who always, gave back, fill in the blank. I think that children see that and they get a sense of responsibility that then causes them to look around for something that interests them in life, right? But they're mostly thinking about, that role model example that was set for them in an early age.
Absolutely.
For instance, if I can connect those two thoughts, when I saw the midshipmen march on, I'd been hearing academy stories from my father for years. And so that was a personification. I had no vision for that story, I think. And I just thought of that just now talking to you, is maybe that midshipman who I saw in ranks down there was the personification of the values that my dad had been talking about the whole time, the stories that, made him from a high school kid into a midshipman, into a Marine Corps officer. And maybe that was it was just, that's what it looked like. And so that's what I wanted to go do based on what I'd heard.
Right.
Something like that.
So you were leading to win the entire time. Your dad's message and then, in your aha moments. And it's funny that you said that. I just thought of that as you were talking to me. And I'm like, I kind of have that effect on people. People have no idea. And then all of a sudden they're like, they connect the dots of life. And it's just a clearing that I am, I guess. But seriously, I think if we were in tune with that, even at a younger age, like I wish that my nephews would connect into something so that, or even leaders or coaches or something that would mentor them into that. And I think at one time we all had a great teacher that we really loved and admired and appreciated.
Yep.
So whether that was a teacher or whether that was a parent, we've all had somebody in our life to mold us to who we are today, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. My experience in high school, I still remember my debate coach was a lady named Mrs. Ducamin. My French teacher was Ms. Gayron. I had a physics teacher named Paul Fuller, who really invested in me. And I didn't really feel at the time. And then a track coach, I ran track and played soccer in high school. My track coach, Brian Overton, during the senior year, and it's easy for me to remember their names because they had that impact on me. He was running me hard with this sort of military mindset, like you can't quit. Not only is this track training, but you can't quit. Where you're going, you're not allowed to quit. So he would push me on that. And then my father introduced me to probably my greatest mentor, and that was a guy named Chuck Clopton. And in the Naval Academy structure, there are naval officers and civilians who are called blue and gold officers, and they're regional in our nation. There are also some overseas that look for international candidates, but the blue and gold officer sort of keeps the candidate moving towards the Naval Academy. And Chuck Clopton really, I had a lackluster person who was kind of managing my candidacy to the Academy, and Chuck took it over and he just set it up, right? And so, I mean, that mentorship, seeing what was possible for young Mike Manazir, and then translating my activities into where we were going to go. I needed all of that. I needed all of that exposure. So math, speech, debate, French, physics, track. I needed all that exposure and those mentors to be, focusing my efforts in those directions. And I think I did get to go there, but I don't actually realize, and I don't think any of us realize the impact of our real strong mentors until later on. Yeah. We don't believe in ourselves as much as they do. Now I'm a mentor for a bunch of people, including mid-level managers and junior executives at my current company. And I see potential in them that they don't see at all. And these are professionals. And I think so the function of mentors, true mentors, is to be able to see that potential and then be giving that guidance and that support. It says, no, you can do this. You can do the stretches. Yes, you should go down that path. You should try this job, even though you don't know if it's going to be right for you. I know this is going to look right. And so our mentors give us that path to go down. And often we don't realize the impact they have on us until well later in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think any of us realize our true potential until, well, maybe not ever. I certainly, it's funny that has been the catalyst the last month. I have really been working on a couple different things, and a lot of people will go, do you have realized the impact that you have made? especially in the veteran space. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just me. I show up, I do what God tells me to do, and this is it. And they go, you really have no clue. And so for the last month, it's just been one person after the other coming out. And as somebody as myself is just like, I don't see myself as doing something extraordinary. I just see myself as showing up. And I think that's what a lot of people don't see themselves in any extraordinary capacity until it's someone tells them.
Absolutely, 100% believe that. I mean, whether you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to, put on more muscles in the gym, or you're trying to do something, you never see that. Your progress to you see yourself every single day.
Yeah.
And, that also goes for your professional achievements. I will honestly tell you, people, they have a different reaction than I do to Top Gun, Flight Tomcats, aircraft carrier. And when I say the words, I go, oh, that's kind of cool. But I don't feel like that. I mean, I don't feel like, wow, look at me, I'm all of that. So I think that, that and the impact of leadership discussions or something that changes somebody's life, the one thing you mentioned to them, all of a sudden you just click and you don't understand the impact you had on my life. And you don't see it, just like you just said. It's really hard. And so you need that sort of affirmation. And, not only is that powerful for somebody who's trying to realize their potential, but it's really powerful for somebody who is not quite achieving their potential, and you're being able to coach them towards that direction. And when they don't really want to go, right, or they don't think they can go, and that reaffirmation and that reinforcement, that support, you're going to be okay. You're really doing well. Trust me, kind of thing. I mean, I think I'm like you. I say that a lot to people.
Yeah. Well, and that's the truth. People like us, we just do it. And I think that's why I resonate so much with the military, because I have that drive to just push through and just do it. Doesn't mean sometimes it's not hard or doesn't feel impossible. It just means that you just keep pushing through. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically all you can do. So what made you decide to write the book, Lead to Win?
Oh, it's so funny. Short.
Or how to lead to win. Sorry.
Yeah. So so let me explain that title. The title's clunky as heck. I mean, it's just, lead to win. How, so let me talk about this first. When I first went to take command of my fighter squadron, which was the first time I was going to have command, in other words, officially responsible for 350 people or more. Up to that time, I've been leading. I've been learning how to follow at the Naval Academy, learning how to follow as a junior officer. I learned how to do the jobs that were leading up to being a commanding officer of an F-14 squadron. I learned how to be collaborative, all that kind of stuff. But now I had to learn, like, literally, I am responsible now. And so I literally am sitting next to somebody at the bar at Naval Air Station Oceana, and we're having our choice of frosty beverage. And it dawned on me, this was in 1997, why is morale important? Like, high morale, why is it important? I can just order them to do stuff, right? And, so it's a rhetorical question. And then the answer to it is morale is important because you want people to try to fail. You want people to be willing to fail for you. You want them to be able to risk and all that kind of stuff. Low morale, they won't. They won't try. And so they won't do that. So anyway, that started this whole journey I had through my entire rest of my Navy career from 1997 until 2017 of learning what it takes as a human to lead, to influence people. And so the book is a compilation of 33 stories that I learned something that resonated with me. Those stories started way back in 1977 at the Naval Academy and occurred all the way through my 36-year career. And they're as fresh now as they were when it happened to me. And I can recall every detail of those stories because they had such an impact on me. And so I really was striving when I would think about mentoring the up and coming commanders who were following in sort of my command footsteps. It wasn't enough to kind of just go, well, you you say it like this or whatever. I was really working on how to lead. Learn their names first. And here's how you do that. Go learn their names. Connect with them as human beings. Don't lead with your title. And then I would answer questions about, well, what did you do in this case? Well, I did this, and when did you use, when did you let somebody off? There's a great story in the book where I looked past basically a fireable offense for a naval officer, and I just counseled them and let it go, essentially. When do you do that? When do you use a stick versus a carrot? What did you do when telling stories like that? So I really dove into real hard how to act as a good human being, as best I can possibly be, to be a good leader of people, such that they get to the point where they don't want to disappoint you and you don't want to disappoint them. That's the idea. And when you get to a point like that, now you have a high performing team, morale's high, they're willing to fail. They know you got your back. They're not going to quit. They're going to keep going in the direction that you want them to go. So I sort of kind of thought that way. Well, anyway, I was with a group of people that manage our finances, and we're sitting in an in-person meeting in February of 2022, so a little over a year ago. And in the middle of this discussion, I said, I told a story, and the CEO of this family office is become a very close friend and mentor of mine. His name is Ben Carroll, and he said to me, Mike, you ought to write a book. And I went, Ben, I have a book in my head now. I've got stories. I've got so many stories in my head, but I've got no time. He goes, hey, don't worry. Get some of that transcription software. We're on a computer. You talk in a microphone, and it writes you a Word document, and you instant transcript. A couple of weekends, you're fine. He goes, and I'll help you. And I said, that's interesting. Okay. Like everything else, busy life. I have a full-time job, by the way, full-time job. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in Dallas for that trip. I come home a couple of weeks later, Ben calls me on the phone. Hey, Mike, book. Like, wait, you're serious? He goes, yeah, you got homework. And he said, you got to come up with 20 stories that you think gave you leadership lessons. Well, I came up with 45 in about 20 minutes and just wrote them down, and story leadership lesson, and just kind of wrote them down. And in April of last year, I went down to Dallas and I worked half days. And then the other half the day, I'd go to Ben's office, and I talked into a microphone for 4 to 6 hours a day for 5 days. And I narrated the book. And I talked about leadership lesson, and I said, this is what it is. And then what Ben did with it, and this book doesn't happen without Ben Carroll. The two of us, he like interviews me and pulls stuff out. So the leadership lesson, he says, well, what did it smell like? And how did they react? And what was the weather like? And what did you think here? And he just pulled all this stuff out. And then I took that bunch of stuff and he would do a little bit of editing on the thing, and I'd write the whole chapter and leadership lesson into my voice. And then he would do the research to find the leadership resources that are behind each chapter. So each chapter is a cool story from my career. By the way, the editor cut it to 33 from like 45. So there's 12 stories. I like the other 12 stories too. I was like, these are great, and so we got another book out there.
I was going to say second sequel coming when?
Yeah. Well, I got a full-time job. So do
I. I get you.
I know. Get on it. I know. No, we're in fact, your friend Kim is part of our team. Setting this thing up and making us go forward. And so we got a lot of material there. So anyway, Ben did the research too. We self-published on Amazon, and we figured out how to put it on the platforms. And I narrated my own audio book, and we just kind of put this thing together. And so from until we were ready to publish in November. We were ready to publish in November. And the editor said, no, you don't want to publish the end of the year. You want to publish beginning of the year. So we actually launched February 2nd of 23 as part of that. So that's how the book came about. And Dorothy, I just thought I was on another project, just like you are talking about. You're on another project. And then I held the thing in my hand. Oh my God. look at that. It's a book. Look at this. I turned it sideways so I could see how thick it was. And yeah, so.
Isn't that the best feeling ever?
Yes, it was epic. I'm like, wow. In fact, there's a stupid video that Kim posted because I sent her, I said, look at this. And I sent the video to him, caught this book, and she freaking posted it on it. Why am I being a silly idiot with this new thing in my hand?
Oh, and see, and it feels like a baby, right? Because I know when I did my first book, and trust me, sir, I have a full-time job. I produce 2 shows and host 2 shows, working on a third one, and have a business as a media consultant for small businesses. So yeah, I get the busyness, and I have a family, so I totally get you.
I pale in comparison to you. I there's no way I come close to you. There's no way. I just didn't.
I didn't say that for that, but yeah, but seriously, I like the whole talking into a microphone thing because it's funny because I've been dying to write my third book. So
that's what I tell everybody. So they ask me, people ask me, hey, how did you, what were like the tricks? What did you do? I said, first I self-published, and Dave Chesson, Kindlepreneur, has this checklist that we just followed. And I said, but the first time saver is you get that Dragon software and you talk into a microphone. You just tell your story right into the book, right into the microphone. Because Dorothy, I tried to write a story one time, tried to write the ejection story. And it took me like 4 hours to write 2 pages, trying to get it right. And so once you talk in a microphone, it gets it on paper. Now you can chop the thing. You mess around with it, play around with it, chop back and forth. So, now you have something to play with. That's a huge time saver.
I like that. Okay, so I am so anal though, because I'm the type of person that can sit in front of a computer and type it out and I'll be fine. I try to do the dictation before because you on Word there is a dictation thing and it types it out. I hate editing so bad that I can't go back and edit that.
Oh man, no, we edited it like crazy. So the cool thing about the software is you can actually watch it. Your rhythm, learns your voice. You get a rhythm going, and the thing's writing while you're looking at it. You can go, no, delete that. It takes away the sentence, or delete, it goes back a word. So you can kind of get it to say what you're going to say. Now, see, relatively easy for me because the stories are my stories and they're the way I tell them, right? So we just put it into writing. And then, of course, getting into the proper English and, the grammar and all that kind of stuff, we had to do that. But, oh, my gosh, yes, there's a lot of editing. We edited from easily, no kidding, play with it from April to August, and then just played a little bit with format from August to November. So, yeah, there's a lot of editing there.
There is a lot of editing when you're writing a book. And it's and that's the part that I like seriously. I hired an editor to do it. Get this. So if you're self-publishing, I know somebody that can edit it for you for next to nothing. And she did a phenomenal job. So if anybody out there needs that, I have that information. Just let me know. I don't have it at my fingertips, or else I put it in the comments. I wasn't expecting to say that, so I don't have it on me.
We did hire an editor, Ben Search, and we found a wonderful editor. Her name's Sandy Wendell. She's on LinkedIn and other places. She is an established editor. She was wonderful, and she has an edge. It's like, nope, stupid, not going to do it that way. Nope, not going to do it that way. So it's like, boom, okay. So she took the book that we had, and in fact, the really cool thing is, you'll find it in each of the chapters of the book. There's a hook at the very beginning, and to keep people reading. And I've heard people say you can't put it down because the stories are great, and it is a shameless plug for you can't put it down. But apparently they're pretty good. And the reason it's like that is because I tell a story in like chronological order. Like I jumped out of an F-14 in August of '87. It's kind of a fun story. And so the way I tell it though is, I was an instructor in the training squadron. I was teaching this hop this one day. We're out showing the student, all these maneuvers, including vertical maneuvers, and then we went out and did the maneuvers, and this is what they were. And I kind of explained them. And then over here we eject, someplace. And Sandy says, okay, that eject paragraph, that goes in the beginning of the chapter. And in fact, it's the beginning of the book. And then it goes, okay, now here's where I started when I was born, kind of thing. So she took the chapters and upended them, and then really, really helped with, once we got going to the leadership lessons, we were putting all kinds of stuff in the leadership lessons, and it was pretty fat. So she was helping to, take some of the stuff out to still, to still make our point. I'm a student of brevity. Every word has to mean something. I like to keep doing that and keep trying to see if I can get the messages down to something really concise. And so working very hard to make things shorter, more powerful, more hard hitting.
Right.
A lot of our content, we strive to, I want that as a standard. And so we did a lot of editing, and then she restructured, and then we did a couple ideas put back to her. So a lot of back and forth in the fall of last year.
Right. Well, that's awesome. I'm just going to take a little bit of a break here for our next sponsor. Just want to shout out to Carrie Petrush, who is the owner of the Highest Intent Life Coaching. Have you ever said this about your partner or yourself? My partner never listens to me, and we argue all the time. My partner always has to be right, and everything is always my fault. Our relationship is boring. My partner doesn't trust me, and we fight over money all the time. And we never agree on anything, especially on how to raise our kids. Does any of this sound familiar to you? As a couple have the power to change your relationship and create more joy and intimacy. For more information about Carrie's coaching, go to the highestintentcoach.com, and where you will find links to her book, as well as you can make an appointment and schedule your free 30-minute consultation today. And just for visiting her website, you can get a free download that she's offering 50 fun things that couples can do for fun. Have fun with this tool and discover your power. And you can go to, there we go, highestintent.com or 512-593-0524. So, Mike, I love what you said. I love your experience on your book. And you definitely had a better experience with yours than I did. So congratulations. I know now not what to do. Anyways, I love that. And I've heard this story, this line where it says facts tell stories, or I said it wrong again, didn't I? Facts tell, story sell. That's the name of it. And I think when you're a good storyteller, that is, and it shines through your book, that that's definitely what makes it a winner.
Yeah, Dorothy, exactly right. So the structure of the book is, this is one man's journey through life. Here's some relatively compelling stories that most people haven't experienced, they might find interesting. I try to make the stories interesting above and beyond what they already are. And then my learning in that situation, this is what I learned from a leadership lesson. So we were banging around between whether it was a memoir or a leadership book. And because the stories were cool. And when we had a focus group look at it, the stories are cool. What do you want it to be, a memoir or a leadership book? No, I want to teach leadership, and talking about how I learned how to lead to win through all of these things, which is why the title is there. Mm-hmm. And so I have found for years now, and it's just been validated over the last couple of years, the ability to tell a story to anybody makes it more impactful. When you go to tell somebody some concept, let me tell you a story, and then you just launch into it, right? And so what I found myself doing is, using storytelling to narrate the point, and people, they stay paying attention, because it's kind of, as long as you're a good storyteller, you can capture their attention. And then all of us have watched people just get the point across by telling a good story, and we always, strive to be some of those good storytellers. So I hope to be somebody like that. A guy who does brand, he's a brand specialist, or whatever you call that, brand management, been doing it for a couple of decades. He made a comment to me that, like, there's 1% of Americans that are good storytellers. And that's what people are looking for, is the storytelling capability. And so that's what we hope the book did, was to tell stories. And then, of course, the audiobook that I narrate, tell my own story in the audiobook. Now you have my voice kind of describing across your car radio or in your AirPods or whatever, telling you that story. And then what I learned with the passion and the emotion in that thing as I learned that lesson.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's I think we all learn something each time we do something. So good for you for like stepping out of your comfort zone and learning what you needed in order to make your book a success. And so where is the best place that they could buy your book, Mike?
So Amazon. So the audiobook is on Audible and iTunes and all of those, and on all, let's see, an ebook, a paperback, and a hard copy are all on Amazon. We also it is in the retail space, so you can go to Barnes and Noble and get it, and any other retails that offer that kind of an open retail space. So pretty typical place to go. If you want a signed collectible, you go to my website, www.mikemanazir.com, and there's a little button for buy book, and then there's a signed collectible that the buy book takes you to the platform to buy it, and then the signed collectible thing says, here, for this much money, you can get a signed one by Mike. Cool. The other thing that I want to say is that website, the book is like our little flagship. I got my Navy going. It's my little flagship. Well, all the little boats around it are the content that we're doing. We've got a bunch of newsletters out. We put out a newsletter once a week. It goes on all the social media channels: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we push those newsletters out. And you can sign up for those newsletters on the website as well. And there's a whole bunch of content on there. I put some content that I did a while ago. We got that on the website. There's a bunch of pictures, images of me doing my stuff in the Navy career, and it's kind of full of some some good leadership stuff and some kind of a retracings in my career that led to putting it all down in a book. Right.
Awesome. I have that here too in the comments to go subscribe to Mike's newsletter. So definitely do that. I definitely can see that where you would learn something from Mike. I mean, you're very knowledgeable, Mike, and especially with all your years of training. Definitely anybody that I've known that's been in the military knows how to lead. And what you were saying earlier at the beginning, where if I forget the proper term that you use, but something along the lines that if your people trust you and you allow them to grow, then they will definitely they'll succeed at everything and do anything that you want. Give them make them feel important and make them feel like it's they're part of a team, and they will go to bat for you every time.
If you remember nothing else from watching the discussion today, if your audience remembers nothing else between our conversation today, it's that. Mm-hmm. If you value people, it's the central idea of any good leader. You value the people, their background, their work, their efforts. They show up every day, their perspective, their ideas, their outlook. If you value each person on your team, and you make them feel valued, and it's genuine and authentic, and you connect with them from the heart and not with your title. You don't lead with the title, but you connect with them. You will achieve everything you set out to do, because they will be trying as hard as they can to achieve what you want to happen. And the nirvana comes, and we said this already once, they don't want to disappoint you, and you don't want to disappoint them. Yeah. There is the ability to create a diverse team. But if you don't include everybody in that diverse team, sorry about that. If you don't include everybody in that diverse team, then you're not gaining the best value out of each person, right? And so there's diversity, and there's inclusion, equity, and belonging. And so you got to bring your team forward. And I just tried really hard in all of my commands to include leading a strike group of 10,000 people. Anybody I came into contact with, I'm a two-star admiral. The gradient between me and everybody else in there is pretty dang high. And I reached out like I was one of them at their level, no matter what level that was. And I made them understand that I was in the trenches with them. And it didn't matter. We had 350 people or 5,000 on Nimitz, 10,000 in a strike group. You reach out and connect with people at a human level, and they'll follow you. And because they know you care. Things like knowing their name, remembering their name, remembering who they are, just acknowledging the fact they came to work. Thank you so much for coming to work today. That idea, recognition, anything that makes people feel valued. All of the statistics in our country point to the fact that people leave a job because they don't feel valued. It's not because they're not getting enough money or vacation time. They just want to feel valued. That's the central idea. Sorry, I ran on, but that said the most important thing.
I love that. And I just wish that more employers would take that approach. In my 40 some odd years, I've had maybe 5 jobs, and I can tell you don't get a whole lot of that in there. But right. I know when I was working for a trucking company, and I was, for lack of better terms, basically the office manager. And so I would be doing mostly bookkeeping, but dabbling with dispatching and dispatching our guys. And I built the rapport with our guys, and I'm like, okay, guys, and they did anything for me. They give the boss a hard time, but if I asked, it was like, yes, Dorothy, what do you need? Right. Because I took the time, I built that rapport. I knew what they needed. And I can remember there was only one time that I had one guy, he was just absolutely would not do it. And so I finally said, okay, I've asked you nicely. I've, done everything without involving the boss. The next call is to the boss, and then you'll have no choice but to do it, or you'll be fired. So here's your choice. Like, do it for me, or I'm calling the boss. And I'm sure I was called a bunch of names in that truck that day, but that was the only time in my 10 years that I worked there that I actually had to pull the bitch card. And I really wasn't bitchy. I was just like, you do it or else.
Yeah. Matter of fact, right? Yeah.
And I'm like, man, if only certain bosses could get that. Now it's just like, they're there, they're putting their time in. Is it 5 o'clock yet? Let's get out of here. Yep. I don't want to be here any more than you do. And I'm like, this is not the environment that makes me want to feel all warm and fuzzy and show up every day.
That's right. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I wrote the book. You asked, how I got to write the book. Well, me and Ben Carroll. Why I wrote the book is I want more people to lead like that, from their heart, valuing people. We need more leaders like that, because in my 36-year Navy career and my 6 years in the civilian industry, by the way, the lessons translate. They're the same. Mm-hmm. Your listeners shouldn't be going, well, he's a military guy. It only applies to military. It doesn't apply to me. No, it applies across the board, because it's about people.
Yes.
And I want more people to lead from the heart, being good human beings, and you'll get anything done. And it's all about trust. You said the word trust. I trust that person. I'll go through fire with that person. Why would you go through fire? I don't know. They care about me. I trust them. You can't even put it into words. You can start having examples, but when you achieve that, and best captain ever, best boss ever, I go through fire with that guy. That's what you're trying to achieve. And it's just day-to-day trust building, caring connection that you build with each person you're trying to influence. And when you're the boss, that's what you do. And that's going to get you the most effective results. So I just want more people to lead like that, Dorothy.
So do you coach too?
I can. Sure, put that in there. Mike coaches. Put that down in the footnotes.
Mike coaches. Kim, if you're listening, you need to get Mike into coaching now too.
Yeah, because I have to have as many jobs as Dorothy does.
Well, that's okay. Not everybody needs to have that many either. And you don't want to spread yourself too thin.
Actually, I have enjoyed whether one-on-one coaching, and this is not an advertisement. I enjoy the relationship building, whether one-on-one coaching or team coaching, because I had an opportunity to lead, large executive teams that then flow down to thousands of people, right? And so you have to be able to influence a set of direct reports all the way down to, you're influencing a bunch of people yourself. So I have enjoyed the opportunity to coach and to describe, maybe different methodologies of doing that, or again, telling stories. So what did you do here? For instance, I will tell you, Dorothy, I didn't learn to delegate until I was second in command of USS Carl Vinson in 2000, after 20 years of being in the Navy. I mean, I was a commander And I could do about every job that was handed to me. And when I got to be the executive officer of USS Carl Vinson, nuclear powered aircraft carrier, I realized I can't do all this. I have to delegate. And so I learned to delegate to the 18 department heads that were on there. It was 19 of us that ran this 5,000 person ship. And so, okay, what I would tell my younger self, like way back here, learn how to delegate. I mean, way earlier than I did. So one of the tactical reasons or tactical lessons that I tell people is, learn how to delegate, extend trust to your direct reports, empower them. And that empowerment is going to make them like being at their job. Mm-hmm. And I didn't learn that until 2/3 of the way through my career. So, I was screwing up the whole time on the way to that bong lesson,
So there's hope for me yet, Kimberly. There's hope for me yet. And with that, I'm going to bring Kimberly on to the show now because it is that time that we do the fundamentals. So welcome, Kimberly. Yes, I got to switch the screens.
Glad I'm an aviator. Glad I can turn upside down because I can hang on with the aerobatics here.
Hey, we just did a little flight patterning, right?
That's all we did. I wanted to see if I could get Mike upside down.
Yeah. So I know you were going for it. You went for it.
I was going for it.
Yeah. Just what happens when there's two pilots and now there's three. that initial little chaos there. It's all good. It's all good. Thank you. Mike, wow, what a great show. Cool. Just like talk about making my heart sing and my soul shudder. It just really, really gorgeous. And so many different areas where I'm like, ooh, well, maybe I'm supposed to talk about this today, or no, oh, maybe this. So the thing that really resonated, Dorothy, and I don't know if we want to let the audience know that we're changing the fundamentals, because I'm realizing that we've not actually announced the shift that we're doing. Yes, this is so funny because I'm
like on the leading edge here. I'm on the cutting edge.
You are, dude. You are on the cutting edge. Totally. Yes, we are 3.0ing the show. So Dorothy, would you like me to share?
Sure, you share. Yes. Or do you want me to do it? Well, we just made the executive decision officially on the weekend, so technically this is our first show.
This is true. Well, and Mike has led me so inspiringly to just jump in, right? And like all we have is right now, right? So why not? Right. And also to not confuse the audience of what the fundamentals has looked like up until now. So this is perfect, Mike, that we're doing this in your amazingness. So the fundamentals we've elevated to another level, which is as opposed to always bringing another sponsor into this area to speak. And Dorothy, you're just going to have to forgive me as I just do what I do, right? I can't not do me, right?
No forgiveness.
So I started the history of the fundamentals, right? Got started because Dorothy was absolutely committed to discuss deep issues, right, on the show, or at least be able to do that. And in an hour's time, some of the dark places that she would allow the show to go, right? So ultimately light could be brought there. One of the things that was happening is, 60 minutes can go really fast. Mm-hmm. And so the fundamentals was birthed inside of a commitment to always end the show in the light, right? So no matter how dark the show needs to go, right, it would always end in the light. And so I was honored, to be accountable for that part of the show. And in that space, what has progressed and we've transcended into, I dare say gone another 10,000 feet, Mike, because that was just there to say, is introverted, no less. Yes, we're doing this, D.
Can I tell you something funny, by the way, since you brought that up?
Yes, of course.
Used to go flying at sunset off the carrier. Okay. And you watch the sunset, right?
Yeah.
Climb another 10,000 feet and watch it set again.
Oh, get out. That's
Inverted.
so cool.
Inverted. And then it set again and you go up another 10,000 feet and watch it set again.
Come on.
Mike, okay, you got to bring us up.
Yeah.
You got to bring us up.
Yeah,
Navy's
you're
got
gonna
a
let
Russian
us
flag.
experience that, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I could just tell you the story, right? It's like, whoa. And then, of course, the green flash, that's for next episode.
Okay,
but Kimberly,
that's fine.
I took you off your
But no, you're right on target. You're right on target, because that's so beautiful, because that is our commitment on the show, Unstoppable Overcomers, and our joint venture production company, Unstoppable Overcomers, which is for people to really get that, if you let go, right? And you actually embrace all that life has given you, especially the darkest moments, you can go to new heights and you can have new experiences that you never even thought was possible. So no one is so perfect. See, giving up, getting it right, and like, oh no, we got to prepare for this announcement. Hell no, right? I didn't even know it was possible that I could watch 3 sunsets in one day. I'm in. Like, I want to experience that. Right? But you can't know that unless you're willing to have your darkest moments become your brightest lights, right? And then be able to give that away to others. So inside the show, we've transcended into is Dorothy being so gracious to say, hey, why don't we just make the fundamentals section an opportunity for me to shine a little bit more and to share the things that I'm up to and that are available, that Dorothy is either a living, breathing demonstration of and is participating in some way, shape, or form, right? And giving a little bit more time and conversation to those different products and services, as opposed to giving away that space and time to other people. So that's what the fundamentals is now going to be. I'm going to listen each week, and I may or may not have a special guest who may be a client of mine or whatever, right? One of my resources or something like that, right? To help people get a better sense of all the things that we either in our joint venture together or me personally have available to the audience, as opposed to, and Dorothy's teaching me to stop giving away all my resources. There's that also, right? So welcome everyone to the next level of the fundamentals. So Mike, we're thrilled that we got to do that in your space. With responsibility, I'm going to keep, so now that we made that announcement, I'm going to keep it super simple. And Dorothy, throw up thekimber.com. And I'm going to let everybody know. And it's very much inside of complimenting tonight's guest, right? Which is what I'm getting, D, is I'm going to just start whatever. I'll just let Holy Spirit tell me what there is that will complement tonight's guest, right? But our company, thekimber.com, is very simply focused on giving very simple, fundamental processes for people to achieve their dreams. Like, I don't care what it is. I don't care how big or how small, but it 100% it's yours. And then the other component of that is constantly keeping people in practices that will support them to see time, money, and people resources as infinite, not finite. Right. And so the one thing that you wanted the audience to get, Mike, about valuing your people is I'm very clear, everything is a living, breathing organism, right? Especially a team and or a company, right? And when bosses and leaders and companies, where they start to stop valuing the people is 9 times out of 10, it's the context of scarcity. They don't want to be those kind of leaders. They don't want to be those kind of people. God didn't design us that way, right? But they're in a toxic context of scarcity. And so hence Kimbra, right? Which is its whole commitment is to continue to break down any conversations or limits around time, money, and people that would free people up, especially leaders, to continually, ongoingly value their people and love on their people. So that's the product that I saw to bring up tonight. Oh, and by the way, this week only, we're having the 411 3 times. It's mid-year. And so we're committed to offering it as much as possible. Our 411 is a very, very simplified business plan, Mike, That was created by Gary Keller at Keller Williams Realty. He built that company in 30 years, right? From nothing. And the very, very simple roadmap is the way to create big things very simply. And so the Kimbra offers it once a month, usually not 3 times, once a month for free to all of humanity. It's our give back as a company. And so we're offering it this week 3 times because we want to invite people to not be discouraged that we're halfway through the year, to actually get that. If you use this roadmap, I don't care where you are at with your goals for this year. You could actually accomplish a 12-month goal in 6 months. So we just want to put that out to everybody. So with that in the space, Michael, what are your 3 fundamentals?
So God put me here with you because of the way you just introduced this. This is the 3 fundamentals for your first rollout of the 3 fundamentals. And they're actually reflected in my experience through my life to this point and in that book. I'm not kidding. The way you said it. First, have a North Star. Where do you want to go? Have a North Star. Could be anything. You just said time, people, space, money, all that stuff, they're infinite. They're not finite. And so you gather all the resources you need along the way to get to that space. Your commitment to that North Star is so strong that when you get up every morning, you're willing to fall on your face, fail, and try as hard as you can. And so failure is okay to you. That's number 2. Failure is okay. You got a North Star. I'm willing to fail on the way to the North Star. Now, Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. Great success. Well, how many times did he try? Like 10,000 or 750 or 1,000,000, but he tried a whole bunch. Failures, and he never quit.
No.
But he invented the light bulb. That was his, one of his North Stars. Of course, he did a whole bunch of stuff. And so you don't fail until you quit. So be willing to fail. And so that's the second one is you try. If you don't try, that means you're quitting on the way to your North Star, which means it's not really your North Star. You're not really willing to go there. So maybe there's another North Star for you somewhere. And maybe it is this year. I want to be there by the end of this year. And maybe something happens to you. Life happens. That's okay. If you keep that North Star going. So a lot of my counseling to people who are trying to do things like very simply get into the Naval Academy like I did. Maybe they don't get in the Naval Academy the first year, but you can get in the second year and you can keep going. You're just a year later. And so time doesn't have to be a failure for you. So look at it that way. And the third fundamental is the resilience and recovery it takes for you to get up from the failure. And when you actually turn around and look at that failure, you'll go, oh, that's why that was supposed to happen. And you learn from it and you see the hand of God is in your life. And it is that was supposed to happen to you. And it happened because you learned that. And now you're going a different way with a new lease on life because you learned something. And so North Star, willing to fail, and then the recovery from failure, knowing you're learning something and you're just on a different path. Those are my 3 fundamentals for you. And I think they fit so beautifully in the way you describe what you wanted your new fundamentals to be. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. It's a perfect place to stop. And actually, I dare say commence, because Mike, there's a future for the 3 of us. There always is on whoever the guest is on our show. So, and our audience as well. So we look forward to the commencement of what's next with you.
Happily. Thank you.
You're welcome. Dorothy, back to you.
Wow. All right. I just want to give a shout out to our last sponsor, which is the 2nd annual Don Greer Memorial Fun Golf Classic, which is being held this year, August 19th in Tilbury, Ontario. Come out, have some fun, support a great guy, memories of a great guy, my dad. And and this year, the proceeds of the golf course are going to the Chatham Kent Peer Cancer Support Group. So lots of fun, I'm sure a little bit of drinking and a lot of shenanigans because, you're with the Graham family. So, but it always promises to be fun. With that, I just want to thank our guests that for tuning in from around the world. And I want to thank Mike for being our guest here and sharing all of your wisdom here. And don't forget to get a copy of Mike's book right there. And don't forget Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and don't forget to sign up for his newsletter as well, which is in the comments. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Mike, any last words before we wrap this completely up?
I loved it, Dorothy. Thanks. I so enjoyed the conversation with you and Kim because it resonated with everything that I believe. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Don't forget, guys, be unstoppable in all that you do, and see you same time, same channel next week. Oh, and check us out on our Roku channel, Unstoppable Overcomers, Roku. Go check us out. This episode will be up there in about a week or so, but definitely check us out and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already.